Good afternoon. I'm here also to talk about my journey toward changing some other blocks that can maybe between the bigger people and the smallest people. And when you talk about that, I'm talking about the academics block and the community block, which are, of course, go parallel. And sometimes it is not easier to meet, as the academic always prioritize the academic search paper writing, where they think about theoretical depths and long-term research outputs. Whereas the community, what they need is the direct support, the direct answer to the problems they encounter in life, like having shelter, clean water, and so forth. So that is my journey. Of course, I went through, and for now, I can say that I've started achieving my results. So this journey, of course, started in 2014, no, 2010, when I got a scholarship to go for masters in tourism. By then, we were the first to have such high level in tourism, having people who have masters in tourism. And my aspirations and expectations were so high. I was, of course, aspiring, expecting to be a very rich man as the person who has a very good degree in tourism. And you know, tourism is, of course, one sector that our country rely on in terms of development. Then my expectation was, of course, to the extent that I was, of course, dreaming to become one time the executive officer or the CEO of tourism in Rwanda. You know, that is a very high position in Rwanda. Then, of course, after completing my studies, that was in 2013 and, of course, 2014, because that is when I started teaching in universities, where I started from the northern part of Rwanda as a part-timer in one local university in Musanze. Then continued in East Africa University, then later to UTB, and now currently I'm in Rwanda Polytechnic Kitabi College in the southern part of Rwanda, where we have tourism program in Rusizi district. So that is when I started seeing, of course, my first vision is no longer achievable. Then started saying, okay, now teaching in university, it's not a very small job. Then I said, no, okay, as a very good person who can think well, let me look for, I was looking for wealth, but now I have to change. I have to be somebody who can help the community, those smallest people, so that I can leave the legacy to myself, my family, and the Rwandan society. So that is how I started thinking about, among the modules I teach, to look at those modules that can help to be closer to the community. And that is how I found that ecotourism and the upgrade form of ecotourism, which is voluntourism, can also help me to reach out to the community. Then there, I, of course, said, now I can really, really succeed. But I didn't know that all along the way I could face a lot of problems. You know, those are very big initiatives which needs a lot of things: time, money, and so many other things. So I said, okay, I know academicians, we always caught up with the academic operations routine, where, of course, you don't have time to think about other things out of your responsibility. but I said, I will manage. That is how, of course, I started thinking about how I can use the resources I had and I have. As I went through different universities, of course, I have a lot of connections of students. You know, a very good teacher should have very good relationship, lasting relationships. It's not teaching and then you forget the students you taught. Then, because of that connection, I organized my students in what we call volunteer groups so that I'm going to be having them when I organize an event like this or an event just there at the grassroots with the communities. So that is how, of course, I managed it, and I had the groups of students that you can work together. Then later, I realized that since I work with the community, I needed also to organize my community. And that is how I organize the community in cooperatives, in cultural groups, and so forth, so that when I organize an activity for them, I at least have people to talk to. Then later I continued, and of course, it's good, of course, as students don't have enough capacity to look for those people who are the key players in tourism who can help, of course, to be accommodating those students of low capacity. Then that is how, of course, I cooperated with the community-based tourism enterprises. And that is, of course, in the western part in Igishwati Mukura, because that is where we started operating. And of course, I managed to get some partnership with the community-based tourism enterprises. Then look for the vacations and adventure providers, because all along we know voluntourism is about combining vacations and volunteering works in the place that you have visited, where you co-create activities and share experience together, both the volunteers or the travelers, eco-travelers, of course, with the community at the grassroots level. Then after that, of course, I realized that I succeeded because of having all those friendship and connection. But I forgot that money, always money, money is life. Then when it comes to work or do those big initiatives, you need a lot of money. You need human resource. You need a lot. So I said, no, I studied. I have a lot of skills and knowledge. Why not using the knowledge? Because so many people may say I'm poor because they forget that they received knowledge that can help them to survive in life. So that is how I used the negotiation skills, as I'm better in negotiating. Then immediately after using my negotiation skills, I got a partner from US, from Westchester University of Pennsylvania. Then, but because it was not my friend, I went through a friend of mine who knew them, who worked with them, then connected me with them. Then later, I was also able to connect with Chiza, the man you see here, who provided for our community 150 eco stoves. Those are stoves to reduce the amount of firewood that they could collect from the Gishwati Mukura cutting trees. Because for that stove, you could reduce a half of the firewood you could use. Then it's not only that, she's also helped us to give solar panels to 30 families, because kids also went there and they planted the trees together. Then after, accepted to donate to those people all those socioeconomic benefits. So, of course, this collaboration is not about getting the aid. It is about, of course, giving value for every person who is involved. Because after all, our people, from working together, got, of course, socio-economic yes, benefit or support. Solar panels and the 150 eco stoves. Not only that, they were connected with the global yes, the global institutions like the universities from abroad. Then after that, of course, I also thought that, I have got some partners that they can help me. But later, I realized that the block still remains. I wanted to connect universities and the local communities. So I looked which strategy could help me to bring both together so that there can be that kind of mutual assistance depending on everybody what he knows to do. Then that is how I realized that, yes, it's good to think about a method which can bring both together. And that is because I knew that to be able to change the university society, it was not easy. But it was just to think about what they are used, and that is research. But which kind of research? Not the traditional research where we study community instead of studying with the community. And that is coming together, planting trees together, building the shelter together, providing clean water together, and so forth. Of course, without forgetting using our cultural homegrown solution like Umuganda and Ubudehe, because there we know that you can get the local community support, the local leaders, and so forth. So that is how I managed, of course, to bring both together and all together to share and create something impactful to the community. Yeah, so you can imagine yourself having students from abroad, from some universities, together with the local students, our local students from different local universities, together with the communities, together with some other co-travelers, planting trees together, building shelter together, and sharing even local food and drinks and dancing together. You can imagine how it is. And are we going to call them volunteers only? Or we are going to say that they are both volunteers and co-researchers? Because after all, everybody gonna contribute to the article that is going to be written, because it's about collecting lived experience stories. Those are the stories. And the story regards everybody, especially the community. So that is how I realized to bring all together, because in the end, the academicians will write research papers, powerful ones and authentic ones, with their co-authors communities. And the communities will get that socio-economic benefits like the solar panels, clean water, and the eco stoves. And after all, of course, the community, of course, will be included in the decision making of what has to be done for them. And that is where, of course, they're going to have a voice to their own future. And of course, on the side of volunteers, they're going to get that life-changing experience, which can, of course, change their life in one way or another. So, considering all that process, I learned that when you think well and you well set your vision, that is how you can know what you have to do. And whoever, big, difficult, and whatever, you are able to bring him on board. As of course, I was able to bring on board even the universities because we are doing research together with the community. Then I also learned that, yeah, by being visionary, what remains is being hard worker, determined, committed, and use strategic approaches. That is how, of course, you can succeed and achieve great things. Thank you very much. Murakoze cyane. Asante sana. Merci beaucoup.
All right, a round of applause to Jules once again.